Who do you think when you say the word inventor, right? I mean, you think, Thomas Edison, right? Or something really big. I think that intimidates a lot of us. And I would like to kind of change that a little bit to say, look, all of us can be inventive.
Hello, I'm Bruce Berman, the host of Understanding IP Matters, a podcast series that looks at how IP rights enable creators and businesses to achieve and how they impact lives. Listeners who followed Season 1, thank you. Remember that all Understanding IP Matters episodes are available wherever you stream podcasts. We encourage your comments and welcome suggestions for topics and guests. Please contact us at explore@understandingip.org. A successful inventor, entrepreneur, and author, Stephen Key is also a coach and educator with students in more than 60 countries. Concepts Key has brought to market have retailed at Walmart, 7-Eleven, and Disney stores. They've been endorsed by Michael Jordan, Alex Trebek, and Taylor Swift. In 1999, Key co-founded InventRight, a company that teaches inventors how to design, patent, and license their ideas for new products. One Simple Idea, Key's best-selling book about how to license an invention, has been translated into 6 languages. He has written more than 1,000 articles about intellectual property strategy and licensing for publications such as Forbes, Inc., and Entrepreneur. Understanding IP Matters spoke to Key from his home near Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Good morning, Stephen. It's good to have you on today's podcast. How are you?
Well, thank you so much, Bruce. I'm looking forward to some of these great questions you sent over to me earlier. They're wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I didn't want to send too many questions because then you would know what I'm going to ask. Those were the fake questions.
Well, that makes it even more intriguing.
You got to keep the interviewee off guard a little bit. Otherwise, there's no fun,
So that's your strategy. All right, I'm ready.
So, Stephen, how did you become interested in inventing and licensing? What happened in your life to make that happen?
Well, I was studying economics at Santa Clara University, and I realized, Bruce, that I didn't want to do that. That was terrible. In fact, I was like, what do I do differently than that? I didn't want to be in business. So I took an art class by mistake, and I loved working with my hands. It was magical. It was amazing. I went home, I told my dad I wanted to be an artist, and he said, he kind of looked at me kind of funny, and I thought he was going to tell me, are you crazy? But he said, no, find something you really would like to do and try it. So I did. But I realized I wasn't going to be this great artist, and I didn't like business. So I just thought maybe I could make things and sell them. Now, what a crazy thought that was back in my early 20s. But I was a young man. I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So I also didn't think anybody would hire me, Bruce, because I didn't really have any skills.
This was around what year?
This was about 78, okay. 1978, and I just didn't know what to do. So I just started making things and selling the things that I made at street fairs, county fairs, state fairs, and learned a lot about people and learned a lot about testing ideas.
What were you making at the time? What were some of the things you were selling?
And so I was a sculptor. I could make things out of clay. And I started sculpting out of nylons, Bruce, little funny characters that had a smile on their face. I know, pretty crazy, but I enjoyed it. And it allowed me to come up with a lot of different ideas and test them very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And that process of testing very quickly is what I teach today.
About how many products have you come up with yourself for license?
Well, quite a few. This is a numbers game. And I learned very quickly that if I was going to come up with ideas and see if they were going to work, I had to find a way to test them. So I do want to mention, though, jumping from selling on the street corners to product licensing for just a minute, that is a jump, right? So And the jump happened at Worlds of Wonder. I was hired to be the manager of design for Teddy Ruxpin and Laser Tag. And it was my first job at basically 27 years old. And I learned about licensing at Worlds of Wonder because the gentleman that licensed Teddy Ruxpin, Ken Forsey, was collecting royalties while I was on the production line over in China. And I realized at the time I wanted licensed ideas like Ken Forsey and not be there and collect royalties. I was just trying to pay the bills and testing the market, and I loved it, truly. But how do you scale? That's what I realized. I was fascinated by scaling, and I learned that at Worlds of Wonder. If you can sell something at a street corner or at a store, how do you sell it around the world?
What's your most successful invention, would you say?
Well, I love them all, Bruce.
I didn't say if you love them. I said, what's the most successful?
All right. Financially, if you want to measure it financially.
Yes, we want to do that, yes.
Okay. That was a packaging innovation called Spinformation. The packaging innovation was just two labels on a container that when you would spin the outside label, which had a window, it would reveal information on the base label. And that label innovation I licensed to the largest label company, CCL Label. And we sold that concept on products such as Nescafe Coffee in Japan, Jim Beam in the United States, Rexall Sundown and Lowry's. We sold over 500 million labels.
Patented or not patented?
Well, that was patented.
Oh, okay.
Well, looking back, that was a technology that when it first came out, it did extremely well, then kind of died down. It came back again. So I collected royalties for almost 20 years. And I eventually sold the patent portfolio to a company that bought the whole patent portfolio. So it started out as a toy invention that was selling at the Disney stores and theme parks. Mm-hmm. And it was just a plastic toy that would reveal more information.
Interesting.
And so when I read an article how packaging needed more space, I took that same concept and created a label that delivered more information. So Spinformation was just a vehicle of adding more information to a label. And that information was very important to companies for advertisement, coupons, drug facts, things like that. So that was my most successful, yes.
You've said for your coaching activity and your students around the world, patents are important, but they're not everything because you can license without having a patent. What do you mean by that?
Well, that upsets a lot of people, Bruce.
Well, it's intriguing,
What I've realized that most ideas that I see that get licensed, including my own and other people now, in most situations, there's not a patent. And there's a couple of reasons why that it's not needed. I think the first reason is that most ideas on the market are not patented to begin with. Most companies realize the lifespan of a product is fairly short, and 18 months, 2 years, maybe mm-hmm. longer. I think the third thing is if I want to stop somebody today, it's very difficult. There's a lot of online sellers, so I'm always chasing people. So if you add those three things together, I think the smart companies realize it's not about patents. Now, they're nice to have. I love them. I use them. I still file for patents even today, after 30 years being in the business. But the reality is it's about good business practices. It's about being first, being original. It's about building a brand. It's about the most efficient way to manufacture it. It's about all those things. So I think patents play a small part in that equation, but not everything.
Would you like to see policies change? The patent, how inventors are treated. It's very difficult to license today on any level, whether you're IBM or you're an independent inventor.
Well, I would disagree with that a little bit. I guess it depends on the technology. In my world, of all the things that I see that get licensed, it's fairly straightforward. And because of what I just said about how quick ideas go in and out of the market and how, who wants to chase people, there's a lot of companies that embrace open innovation. They're going to open the doors. They want to find good ideas. It's not about chasing people, stopping people. It's about, I need good ideas. So we see a lot of licensing agreements. Now, And some industries where there's a lot of time and money spent to develop some technologies, it's probably more important for them.
What's to prevent a company from saying, that's a great idea, we like it, or not to say anything and just use it? And, you have to come and get me and chase me. And that's going to be a hard thing to do. Why do they not do that?
Well, that's a great question. And I remember back in the day, I interviewed Eddie Goldfarb. That was a very successful toy inventor. And that industry, the toy industry, has been an open innovation industry for 80 years. And I said, Eddie, why don't people steal your ideas? You licensed over 500 ideas. Did any company ever steal them from you? And he said, no, Steve, that's not the way it works. You see, they open the doors because they need ideas from people like me. And if they were to steal it from me, the door closes. Okay, so open innovation is all about companies that have said, look, there's a very good chance there's a great idea out there. Why don't we open the doors to see if it comes in? But what you just mentioned, that's a fear a lot of people have. So it all comes back to education again, to realize, find those companies that do embrace open innovation, show them great ideas, file simple tools such as a provisional patent application, and go forward and without the fear.
Is waiving a patent in front of a potential licensee, is that ever a negative?
I don't think it's ever a negative. I like patents. I believe in them. I just think they need to be used differently today. I think you need to use patents in a combination of a good team, knowledge, manufacturing knowledge, great marketing, maybe creating market demand. I think it's all these things combined with a patent. Now it truly has value. I also think patents aren't written very well. I think they're written from a legal perspective, not so much from a business perspective. And someone had mentioned to me, Steve, what you're talking about is a transaction-ready patent. Yes, I am. I'm talking about writing it in such a way that it reduces arguments, right? And writing in such a way that has good manufacturing technology, the most efficient way, good material, good workarounds, variations, lots of drawings. Write it in such a way that not only does it give your patent perceived value, but perceived ownership. And I don't think anybody's talking about that.
Does that suggest including know-how in the patent as opposed to keeping it separate?
For me, know-how is very important. Manufacturing is very important. In fact, most of the patents that I own are methods of manufacturing. Because at the end of the day, how do you make it? And how do we make it fast and inexpensive and a great product? So I'm a big believer in that. I would like to write an application where a potential licensee or an investor can see it and they know two things. Number one, this guy has done his homework, right? He's found a point of difference. He has also brought to the table how to actually do this, right? Because I think most patents do not include that type of information. So I don't think a lot of them are worth very much because they don't. So I'm all about writing applications from a business perspective that not only protects you, but overcomes arguments. And the first argument that you're going to encounter why am I going to pay you? Okay. So if you write it that way, you can overcome that argument because you've done a great job and you have all the knowledge. The second argument will be with a patent examiner. So if you've done it this way, with all those type of details and done your homework and know your point of difference, there's a very good chance that will be issued. And the third argument, if someone tries to take it from you and tries to work around you. So if you've included workarounds and variations and you've really done your job, it's going to make them think twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from my perspective, we need to start educating inventors and entrepreneurs and startups and companies how to write them from a business perspective.
Inventing, Stephen, is basically problem solving. Whether you're Watson Research Center, IBM, or Bell Labs, or Intel, you're solving a problem. It might be a more complex problem in the area of semiconductors. But how does an independent inventor differ from a research-oriented inventor?
I think they're very similar, no matter if it's a toy or kitchen gadget or a packaging innovation that reduces plastic or a new type of search engine. I mean, you're solving problems. I believe anybody that's in the business of solving problems and coming up with solutions, I think we're doing the same thing. Right now, with large companies, which I've realized they have more data, right? They can identify a problem their customers might have. They have those type of tools to really zero in on a problem to try to fix. Where independent inventors, sometimes we don't have that type of data. So we have to kind of read between the lines, do a lot of research. So we're at a kind of a disadvantage, unless you're from an industry and you step back out, then maybe not. But I think they're very similar. The one thing that all people, all inventors can do, are companies that are looking at developing some new whatever, really understanding the market demand for it. And that's part of that puzzle of or bringing market demand to the table. Market demand can move mountains. Market demand can take away risk. Market demand, and that's what we did with this innovation called Fishbone, to test this concept. There's no IP. There's just guys with knowledge and a great idea. How do you get someone to spend millions of dollars on something? You have to show the carrot. And the carrot can be market demand. So we brought one of the largest beverage companies in the world, said, I want it. So it made it really easy for our licensee or to look at it and go, look, if you've got that type of customer wanting this, I will license it from you, and I don't even know if it's going to work, and I will invest the millions in it. So I'm seeing that more and more with ideas and innovation that requires time and money and everything else. Those are obstacles. How do you reduce the obstacles? Or not reduce them, but how do you take away the risk? So I think it's all market demand, and I think more of us need to think of it that way, and then package our offering to a company with that in mind.
More licensing can be carrot licensing, even in the tech industry where they're very reluctant to take a license.
Here's the other thing I've realized, and I've just seen this play out. 2 students that we have that are in the UK, they're young engineering students, are brilliant, and they have a new packaging innovation that eliminates 80% of plastic, which is it's on everybody's mind. But to test it and to build it, you're talking about just money and risk and time. All right. So the strategy was, let's create market demand. They showed it to Tesco, one of the largest retailers in the UK, and they have a division, sustainability department. Those guys, actually, you can get to those guys pretty easy. So they showed it to them, and they looked at it and go, we love this, not only for our own private label, because we sell this package, but what about everybody else we deal with?
But in tech, Stephen, if you show them a solution that's patented, they're frightened already. They think they're going to, because they're doing something like that. Maybe you have a patent and maybe they should stay away from you. How do we eliminate that barrier?
Well, I don't know why they're afraid of it, because in the situation I've just had mentioned, there's no IP yet. But Tesco introduced us now to the largest flexible packaging company in the world. Now, what's great about it, here's this company getting a request from their customer saying, I want this. All right. Now, that changes the relationship. We have a customer that wants it. We want to work with you. But now it keeps them honest, right? Because if they were to do something funny that you're talking about, they don't want to do that in front of their customer.
Right. Now we're potential partners.
It's a different way of looking at that demand, creating that the demand. And I do believe for those complicated projects that take time and money, if you looked at it that way and bring someone to the table that says, I want it, to someone that can help you execute it, I think it's a great strategy.
Now, some companies will talk to independent inventors. Who are those major licensees these days that you can, without revealing too much of your trade secrets, but who's interested in hearing from independent inventors?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, the one industry that has been working with inventors for probably 80 years is the toy industry. And companies like Hasbro has a huge department, inventor relations, and they take it very seriously. In fact, I've read where 60% of their brands come from the outside. So that's extremely important to them. Other industries, and I'll mention another one that's completely different. Let's say LifeScan. I think it's LifeScan. They do tools for people that have diabetes. And I did an interview with them, and they're $1 billion company and in the medical area. And they have a complete open innovation platform because they know they don't have all the greatest ideas, and they need other players in other types of industries to come together to solve some of the problems that their customers are having. So here's two different companies in two completely different fields have embraced working with us inventors.
Well, why don't the big tech companies think that way? They think we could do it all in-house. We have a lot of money. We spend $5 billion on R&D. Why do we need this guy for in a garage,
Well, they have a little problem there, Bruce. And the problem is, years ago, I believe that they realized that what they're creating is an intangible thing. They don't want that inventor to come along. They don't want that great innovation to come from someplace else. So they're not open to work with us independent inventors. That's not a great situation. So they don't embrace, innovation coming from the outside. They have more of a tendency either to buy it when it's proven, or somehow work around it. You could talk a lot about workarounds. Some people say they infringe or work around. Well, I don't care what you call it. It's an argument, but they have a different strategy to it. So no, they're not inventor friendly, unfortunately.
Some of the larger tech companies are even inventor unfriendly, you might say.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, try to call someone at Facebook and get a meeting. Mm-hmm. I think that's impossible. I don't even think they have phones over there, Bruce, to contact somebody. So no, they're not. And I think that's a big problem. I really do. And I don't think they respect intellectual property. I think they do file a lot of intellectual property. They don't need someone in a dorm room.
Even though Google was founded that way, right?
Well, that's really crazy, isn't it? But they don't want that to happen to them. And because you can look at their market share has increased over the years because not really supporting our patent system a little bit, right? I mean, it's grown. And so they have their own business strategy is to not participate as much and not embrace the open innovation business model. And that is too bad, in my opinion.
On your website, InventRight website, there are tons of tools. I think there are 800 videos, 100 podcasts, forums for inventors to use, like blanket forms. This is wonderful stuff. It's all free, I believe. What if an inventor uses all that, or potential inventor? What else do you have to tell them that's not there?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because we do. We have written 1,000 articles, 900 videos. We give samples on our website, inventright.com. There's a free resource thing and page there. And we have more free resources probably anywhere in the world for the independent inventor. We give it away for free. Okay, so what's missing there? Why do we do that? Because we do sell a coaching course, and we've been doing that coaching for almost 20 years now. In fact, over 20 years. So how does that make sense? Well, that's a very good question. We don't see a lot of success just with that information by itself. But we like for people to get involved, to jump into this world of innovation, to start out and build, file provisional patent applications and reach out to companies. We want them to get involved, because we do believe as a company, everybody should have the right to share their creativity with the world. That's our mission. So we're going to help you. But we also realize that you're probably going to need more help than that. And if you do, we're here. That's why we do that. And when they are ready, when they have, they took the resources and maybe it's worked, or maybe they've had some problems, but when they do come to us now, they are ready. We do it a little bit differently, and people probably think we're crazy. That business model seems a little bit crazy, right? To give it all away, but it works. Really, if people are successful, it shines the light not only on us, but on them, but the whole industry. And we want people to be successful. So yes, we give a lot of information away for free.
How many inventors have you coached or worked with over the years, would you say?
Well, 20 years, a
Yeah.
lot. We have students in over 65 different countries and all different industries. And we have different coaching programs for people that are starting out, or maybe they're a little bit further along, or maybe who knows what, where they are. So we try to really gear our program with what they need today. And the goal is to get them in the game as fast as we can, and then be there for every little question they're going to have. Because even though you have content, I mean, what professional person out there has learned, how to do something as a pro by watching a video or reading a book? Not too many. You're going to need some type of mentorship, internship, coach. We want to be that coach.
Lawyers don't do that. Perhaps they should.
I'm not saying it's the greatest business model, Bruce, but let me tell you what happens when you do that. You build a large network of people that follow you, that support you, and we help each other. And I do believe if you're successful, you're going to keep on participating in that industry. And I think from a legal perspective, the IP world, if your clients are more successful and you help them become more successful, they're going to file more IP. So I do think they should look at it a little differently. I mean, you want your customer to come back and be successful, so they file more trademarks and copyrights and patents. And I've been with my patent attorney, John Farrell, for over 25 years because he gave me great business advice. He said, Steve, don't worry about protection. Worry about selling. And he kind of focused. He told me, work over there. And because of that advice, I've been working with him for 25 years, filing lots of IP and still filing them today.
What are some of your students' successes? Can you mention specific products?
Sure. This is kind of a very interesting product. It's called the Whiskey Wedge. It's just a device. It's a glass that kind of keeps the ice separate from your favorite drink. And they sold 1 million units. Now, 1 million units, think about that. 1 million units at $25, an average royalty rate of, let's say, 5%. If you do the math, you're probably talking about $500,000 on a glass. So that's a very simple idea that very successful. I think people would be surprised that business model of licensing for such a simple idea would generate those type of revenues.
Take us through, Stephen, if you would. An inventor comes to you, or one of your coaches calls up or writes in and says, I have an idea. What's the process step by step?
I think the very first step is to really know your point of difference. And that would be it's very simple. Do a Google image search or a Google shopping search and spend a couple of hours on that micro category that your product fits into. And within a couple of hours, you're going to know every product in that space. That's really simple to do. And that's really fun to do. And you will see the whole landscape of everybody. So you'll be able to see very quickly, does your product have a point of difference compared to all the other products? And then if you still are excited about it and you realize no one's thought about this, then maybe do a patent search, right? And dig a little bit deeper. I'm not ever worried about patent searching. That doesn't bother me. Prior patents never bothers me. What bothers me if it's on the market, because really, if someone has filed a patent on an idea but never came to market, there's a problem there. So to me, it just gives me a roadmap. Why? Pricing, maybe didn't know how to manufacture it, maybe the timing wasn't right. But what was it? So it gives me that type of information from a designer standpoint, from an inventing standpoint. But what I'm concerned about is the marketplace, right? Because if it's not there, now my job is to take it to step number 2 in our program. So I think that first step it's a very important step. It's a step that you might have to redesign, walk away from it, or maybe continue.
You're sort of self-selecting. The inventor is determining himself or herself. Well, I really do have an idea, or maybe I don't, that's marketable. Is trademarks ever an issue or much of an issue early on? Probably not that much early on.
Trademarks, most companies that are going to license your idea from you are going to come up with their own name.
Yes.
So, but if you have this great name that you really just love and the benefit is in the name, sure, get a trademark. Why not?
Right. It's not that expensive.
No, easy. No. A great tool.
Another product or two from your students that people may recognize out in the marketplace.
There's a product that did extremely well I think it was called Grid It. So it's just an organizer that uses straps to keep things in place that you could put in your purse, you could put in your backpack, luggage. That was designed from one of our students years ago that did so well, the company just blew up. And so they ended up buying everything from the inventor. And it's called Grid It. And I think under the brand Cocoon. That was just a really great, simple, amazing idea. There's another one that just launched that we think is going to do extremely well. It's called Finger Shields. And that inventor was a grandmother that was taking care of, I think, her daughter's baby and realized putting the ointment on the bum was kind of messy. So she came up with this one finger glove, and it's called Finger Shield. And that was licensed to Baby Brezza, which is one of the largest supplier of products to Walmart in that category. That was just licensed. Finger shields will be in every diaper bag they give away. But that's one of those consumables that I love so much, Bruce. Right? My inventions really fall into the consumables. Right?
Are those your inventions behind you on the wall that I'm looking at?
Yes, some of them, like my spin label, that was a label, and that was on water and vitamins and all sorts of products that people would come buy another one. Those are consumables. I love those because the royalties just keep coming in. I'm working with a team of inventors on another packaging innovation called Fishbone, and Fishbone was licensed to a very large privately held package company, and it eliminates the plastic rings that are terrible for the environment. So you can go to fishbone.com and you can see this great innovation from a team of inventors that was licensed to a very large company called Atlantic. And our first customer was Brita. Brita, Brita filters. There's Brita water. So now you can find that in the stores now using Fishbone packaging design. Eliminates the plastic rings, which are terrible. And you're going to see more and more of those types of packaging designs now from all the players. So they got into it very early. Those inventors at the very beginning were in there a little early, but now everybody wants to get rid of that plastic. So timing's everything.
What does it take, Stephen, to be a successful inventor? Is there a personality type that you've seen do you see a pattern?
I think there's a pattern. I think being curious, I think that's a big part of it. Being very determined and loving it. Really inventors, what you realize about inventing or being a creative person, it's not so much of a job. It's something you're passionate about. You wake up every morning and you want to do it. Saturday, Sunday, it doesn't matter. You're always thinking differently. And I think I see that quality in people that do create things. I do think inventors never retire either. I think they just keep on doing it because it's a lot of fun to see something, an idea that's in your head and you see it come to life, right? Or people use it, or it solves a problem. That's really remarkable. So I think it's individuals that are hooked on it. They love it. They want to help. They're curious. They're determined. They recognize there's going to be a lot of obstacles and they're not afraid of them. They ask a lot of good questions and they stay in it because it is a tough industry. And so they have to have a lot of tenacity. You just have to be tough skin.
What do you tell inventors or people who think they're inventors but they really don't have the invention that's marketable. How do you convey that to them?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I think most of the ideas that we see get licensed aren't inventions. Or even if they are, maybe they're not even called inventions. I'm a little confused when you say invention, you're really talking about getting a patent issued.
Right.
All right. And I don't think you need a patent issued to share your creativity and commercialize it. So I do believe that inventiveness is really the key word here, right? So coming up with something new that people want and overcoming obstacles. This word inventor, boy, you think, who do you think when you say the word inventor, right? I mean, you think, Thomas Edison, right? Or something really big.
Right.
I think that intimidates a lot of us. And I would like to kind of change that a little bit to say, look, all of us can be inventive.
Is there a future for inventors? Is it brighter than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago?
Oh, it's never been a better time ever. More and more companies have embraced open innovation. They want to work with you. You have great tools such as 3D printing, so you can build those prototypes fast. You have a wonderful tool, a provisional patent application, where you can file that for under $100 and get patent pending status. There's the Zoom, where you don't have to fly out to make a pitch. You can pitch on Zoom. You don't even have to go to a trade show today. All the tools available today to reach out to anybody on LinkedIn. You can get to any company. There's no gatekeepers anymore. So think of all the tools that we have. We can reach out to anybody. So anybody can play this game of innovation. I believe what's happened, and part of what we're trying to do at InventRight, is help tear down the barriers. And I think those barriers are being taught. You have to file a patent, and you have to start a business, and you have to do a prototype. All those things are barriers. And what I like to say to everybody, look, there's something else. Learn about product licensing. You don't necessarily have to build a prototype at first. You can do a 3D computer-generated model to see if there's interest. You can file a PPA. You can find a company that's got the shelf space, so you don't have to start a company. So what that does, it allows everyone to participate. So yes, I think it's never been such an amazing time to jump in if you're creative.
Thank you. That's been terrific. I think we're all out of time. This was wonderful, Stephen. Any further thoughts?
No, I just want to thank you so much, Bruce, for letting me share my thoughts on these topics, because I think they're important. And I do think that we need to get this information out to more people. And thank you for doing all the work you're doing about educating people on intellectual property, because I do believe you have to start there of how to protect and how to identify, your creativity.
Yes, and how to remove some of the hostility to IP rights and IP owners.
Well, I just think it comes back to really understanding all of it, and I don't think a lot of us do. There's a lot of us out there that really want to help people understand those tools, because they're amazing tools, and all of us should have the ability to use these tools. So we need to know what those tools are and keep creating. We need to get the word out. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you. More information about Stephen Key and InventRight resources can be found at inventright.com. Understanding IP Matters is brought to you by the Center for Intellectual Property Understanding and its subscribers. To hear other episodes, visit understandingip.org. Follow CIPU on Twitter at Center for IP and on LinkedIn. This episode was produced and edited by Nathan Tower and Aaron Devereaux at Nonsensible Productions. Content conveyed on this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not reflect the views of CIPU or its affiliates.